All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are diving into a number so big it's almost impossible to wrap your head around: the U.S. national debt. I mean, you hear about it all the time, right? But what does it really mean? Let's get into it. You've probably heard this line before, right? It's often linked to economists like Paul Krugman. And the idea is pretty simple. Hey, don't panic about the national debt. It's not some big disaster because, at the end of the day, it's just money we owe to, well, ourselves. And that sounds kind of comforting, but is it really that simple? Is that the whole picture? Yeah, let's pull back the curtain on that idea and really dig into what's going on. So, we're starting with this big question. Is the debt just something we owe to ourselves? But before we can even begin to answer that, we need to get a handle on the sheer scale of this thing. I mean, how big are we really talking here? Okay, get ready for this. As of mid-2024, the U.S. national debt is sitting at a mind-boggling $34.58 trillion. Yeah, trillion with a T.
It's a number so huge, it's almost abstract.
So, how do you make a number like that feel real? Well, let's break it down. That comes out to more than $103,000 for every single person in the United States. All of a sudden, that abstract number feels, well, it feels a lot heavier, doesn't it? And that brings us right back to that first big question. If we owe all this money to ourselves, then who exactly are ourselves? Let's take a look at who's actually holding all of these IOUs. The first thing that probably jumps out at you here is just how many different people and groups own U.S. debt. It's not like it's just one entity. It's this really complex mix of, well, everything. We're talking domestic and international players, government agencies, and private investors.
To make sense of it, you can basically split the debt into two big buckets. First up, you've got the money the government literally owes to itself, to its own agencies. And then there's the debt held by the public, and that's a huge category that covers pretty much everybody else. So a really big piece of the pie is what's called intragovernmental debt. The easiest way to think about it is like this. It's basically the government writing IOUs to itself. So one part, like the treasury, owes money to another part, like the Social Security Administration. These giant trust funds have all this extra cash, and what do they do with it? They buy government bonds. Okay, so then you have that second bucket, debt held by the public. And wow, this category is broad. We're talking about everything from your own retirement fund to banks, insurance companies, individual American investors. But here's the kicker. It also includes foreign governments and international investors. And this is where that whole "we just owe it to ourselves" idea really starts to get shaky. Think about it. Almost a third of the debt held by the public is owned by people and governments outside the U.S. So when we make interest payments to investors in, say, Japan or China, that's not just moving money around internally. That's real cash flowing out of the U.S. economy. So it's pretty clear the debt isn't just some internal family affair. And owing this kind of money, it doesn't really matter who you owe it to. It has very, very real consequences for the economy. This is way more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. Okay, so one of the biggest impacts on the economy is something called crowding out. Here's how it works. When the government has to borrow trillions of dollars, it's basically dipping into the same limited pool of money as everyone else. And when you have that much demand for borrowing, it can push interest rates up for everybody. That makes it more expensive for private businesses to get loans, to expand, and to create jobs. And this really gets to the core of the problem, doesn't it? The Nobel-winning economist James Buchanan, he put it very bluntly. He said this debt comes with a genuine cost, and that cost gets handed down to future generations. The people who had absolutely zero say in creating it. And that's the absolute key takeaway here. The people who get the benefits from all this government spending today are not the same people who are going to have to pay the bill tomorrow. We are literally shifting the financial weight from our shoulders onto the shoulders of our kids and grandkids. Now, these two charts side by side, they just paint such a powerful picture. On the left, you see the debt in raw dollars just exploding upwards. But look at the chart on the right. That shows the debt as a percentage of our entire economy, our GDP. And that ratio, it's now higher than it was even at the end of World War II. And that tells you something really important. Our ability to just grow our way out of this hole is getting harder and harder. But here's the thing. Believe it or not, that $34.5 trillion number, that's not even the whole story. Not even close.
There's another, even bigger set of promises that almost never gets talked about.
All right, so let's look at this again. Here's that official number we've been discussing, $34.58 trillion. Got it? Keep that number in your head. Now, look at this number, $78.2 trillion. What is that? That's the estimated unfunded liability for just two programs, Social Security and Medicare. Yeah, it's more than double the entire official national debt we were just talking about.
So what on earth does that mean? Well, it means the government has promised to pay out this much money in future benefits to retirees, but it hasn't actually collected the taxes or saved the money to pay for it. It's like a massive credit card bill that's been stuffed in a drawer, one that doesn't even show up on the official balance sheet. So when you add it all up, the official debt, these huge unfunded promises, this transfer of the burden between generations, you realize we're standing at a really tough crossroads. And there are just no easy, painless answers here. So the question is, what happens now? What do we do? The choices are pretty straightforward, but man, are they politically toxic. You can slash government spending in a major way, you can jack up taxes on everyone, or you can have the central bank just print money to cover the bills. And as history has shown us time and time again, that road usually leads to runaway inflation.
And that really leaves us with this powerful image. Again, from James Buchanan, he said that financing today's spending with tomorrow's debt is like chopping up the apple trees for firewood, thereby reducing the yield of the orchard forever. It's such a perfect way to put it. We're not just passing along a bill, we're actively sacrificing our potential for long-term growth just to have a bit more comfort today. So the question we really have to ask ourselves is, how much of our own future are we willing to set on fire?